Okay, I wanted to talk to you today about the taxes in St. Kitts. The taxes in St. Kitts are actually quite high, okay? In fact, there are some certain types of taxes here that are a lot higher than the US and the EU. But the thing that's neat about St. Kitts is they tax you on a percentage basis, which sounds like it's bad, but what they do is they tax you based on a percentage of what you spend and not what you make. But this is the key. You can come to St. Kitts and you can get hit with some big tax bills if you don't know what you're doing. I'm going to tell you today how you can actually avoid a lot of these if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get stuck with some really big tax bills. So they're going to really surprise you when you get down here. So you really need to know what you're doing ahead of time. Also, folks, if you want to legally get around your income taxes or how to get a second passport as quick as 45 days, do three things. Hit the subscribe button on the right of your screen. You'll get new videos automatically as they come out. And number two is I would like to hear from you. If you got a question or comment, put it below. And number three is go to our website, www.citizenshipquickly.com, and just ask for some help. Okay, I'm going to go over some different ways that they tax you here. And you really need to know ahead of time, how to deal with this, or you can get down here and you can really get slammed down on your taxes. Let me go over a few things here. One of them is dealing with on your car. I see a lot of people come to St. Kitts and they bring cars in here. They're not even luxury cars. I mean, they're middle of the road type cars. Man, you're gonna get slammed like hell on taxes if you do that. There's like about a 80% duty on taxes. You're gonna pay a lot more too if the car's over 2 years old. And if you bring in a Mercedes, I don't care if it's a used Mercedes 20 years old, man, they're gonna hit you like hell when you bring it in. And on top of that, the parts, every time you have a part that goes wrong with a Mercedes, you're gonna pay through your butt. And I'm going to tell you the best way to do it is try to stay away from middle of the size road cars. Stick with subcompacts like Hondas, Toyotas, Nissans, those cars. The parts are easy to get. That's something else you got to remember. You're on an island, so you want to try to be able to get the parts here. There are part places here, but you need to stick to cars that are, it's going to be easier to get the parts. Another thing too is gas is very high here. Now you'll find out that gas here is it's around I think it's around 13 or 14 EC a gallon, but that's like a UK gallon, which is more, and that's EC, not US. Okay, but you will drive a lot less here. Okay. My gas amount here is a lot less than I paid in the U.S., even with the gas being higher. But these are some things that you'll notice when you get down here. But the best way to do it is, if you get a car, is to get it from a place like I'll tell you a place I like a lot. It's Japanese Vehicles. You actually order it online. You can also call them on Skype, and they can have the car shipped in. It'll take about 2 months to get here. And then it doesn't come directly here. It goes to Miami, and then it goes from Japan to Miami, then back to St. Kitts. It's going to cost you around $3,500 US for the shipping if it's a subcompact. It's based on several factors, but roughly it's going to be around $3,500 US for the shipping. Now, you can get cars there with, no joke, I got one for, only had 20,000, I think it was 18,000 miles on it. And I bought it for $400 US. They've got to get rid of cars there pretty quick. But what you do is, if it's over 2 years old, you're going to have this, I think it's around a 2,000 US dollar environmental duty. And then you got like about, so I can tell you a ballpark, if you get a car for only 400 bucks, by the time you pay that duty, all the taxes being brought in, everything, the tag and everything, that 400 US dollar car is going to cost you about 7,200 US here. and you're not going to get it any lower than that. Okay, that's about as low as you're going to get it. I'm talking about if you bring it in from Japanese vehicles. Now, you can get cars here too, and you can bargain with the person, and the tax is already included because they've already paid the tax if it's already here. Okay, and the best place to do that is maybe a rent-a-car place, but you need to make sure, because you get a lot of people coming in, they tear cars up. You need to really check the car out real good, but try to get one with low mileage. That's the key. I've seen people pick up cars here. I know an Indian lady who picked up one for $3,000 US. Really nice shape, great mileage on it. But otherwise, if you bring it in from outside, whatever you do, don't ship your own car over here. That's the worst thing. You'll end up paying almost the price of your car. In other words, you would have paid your car twice. One time when you bought it, and then another time when you bring it in, okay? So you definitely don't want to do that. Leave your car where it is and go the route that I'm telling you. Either get it here or go get it through Japanese vehicles. That's the best way to do it, okay? Now, otherwise, you will pay a lot of money in taxes. And again, don't get luxury cars or even middle-sized cars unless you don't mind paying high taxes, because you're going to pay a lot when you do that. Okay, let me go over a couple of things on your on the house stamp duty. If you're going to get a house down here or any properties and stuff, you should be getting citizenship, because if you end up going outside of Frigate Bay or buying properties that are outside the citizenship zones, you're going to pay, if you don't have citizenship, you're going to pay the 10% land alien holding license. So if you buy a house for, $1 million, you're going to pay $100,000 in the land alien holding license fee. Now, how do you avoid that? You can avoid it. The way you avoid it, get citizenship, number one, and you do that before you buy the property, or either at the time you're doing it. You got to coincide those, and or what you do is, if you're not going to get citizenship, buy either in Frigate Bay or in the citizenship zone so you can avoid it. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to pay 10% on that, and then you're going to pay a 10% stamp when you sell it. Okay. So if you go and you buy and a house doesn't qualify, you're not a citizen, and you're going to have to pay the land alien license, you're already 20% in the hole when you buy that house. You see what I'm saying? But I've just told you how you can avoid that, okay? But these are taxes. If you don't look at what you're doing, you can pay a lot more than a capital gains tax, okay? All right, so you gotta know how to do this. Also, the stamp duty can be avoided if you just carry it all the way to death and pass it down. Alive, you do it through inheritance when you die. That's the best way to do that if you want to avoid the stamp of 10% when you make a sale. So you want to actually inherit the property and not sell it. So that's another option there. And then you got property taxes. Property taxes are real low, but it's like 0.20%. It's real low. It's almost nothing. But when you add together the other 20%, man, that's a lot. Okay. This is why you got to remember, every place that you look at, you're going to have places that won't have a maybe they won't have an income tax, but they're going to be making their money somewhere. Okay. But let me tell you what I like about St. Kitts is the money is evenly spread out to other people. All the people that have money will pay more, because if you go out and buy an expensive car that maybe a poor person can't pay for, you're going to pay more than the other person would. But look at the U.S., for instance. The U.S., if you go on the internet, you don't have to take my word on this. Go on the internet, you'll see where most of the people in the U.S. don't even pay income tax, okay? And so that what they do is they hit the top 1%, and they charge them a percentage on what they make. Here, there's no income tax, okay? But whenever you bring stuff in, this is when they get you on duty, okay? Not just on cars, but everything. Now, you're looking at around 50-something%, I think, duty and VAT on everything when you bring in an item. Now, it is cheaper on drugs. Let I'm talking about legal drugs like medication, stuff that you need. So that's, I think it's around 10 or 15%. It's not that much. It might be even lower than that, but it's real low on drugs and even food that you ship in, because some people actually order stuff from Amazon and get it shipped in, but I've never done that. I just never felt a need to. I can get any type of food I want here, but there are some things I do order from Amazon, but not food. But the way you avoid that high import duty is you make a list and try to buy everything in the month of December. I've done other videos on this because you get an exemption per box, which just about zeroes out everything. I forget how much the exact figure is, and it could change, so I don't even want to give you a figure because it could change by the time you get it. But I can tell you, usually, unless it's really expensive, per box, they're going to give you an exemption per box that you bring in. So it's not each time you bring it in, it's per box of whatever you bring in. So if you bring in 6 boxes, you get an exemption per box in December, so you can get it literally down to zero, close to it, okay? So that's one thing that you can look at there. Now, another thing too is when you're setting up businesses, as I mentioned to people before, there is no income tax here, but they do have a corporate tax on corporations and limited companies, and it's high. It's 33%. It used to be 35%. Now, some businesses have to use that structure or you're an insurance company or a mutual fund company. They're going to require you to set up a corporation. That means you're going to have to pay a corporate tax of 33%. Okay? Most businesses won't have that. If you want to set up a local company, the way to do it is do an unincorporated business. And it's a 4% business tax that you pay, and you get an exemption before that 4% even kicks in. But now if you have a company outside the country, then they don't tax any income or even a limited company or corporate taxes on that, because it's not a local company, it's outside wherever you're getting the company from. Now that other place might tax you through corporate fees and stuff like that. In fact, Belize started coming out with taxes and taxing certain type of businesses and things like this. So, but they now have eliminated that on LLCs. They just did this recently. That's a loophole they just came out with. There are all kinds of ways you can come down here, but if you don't know what you're doing and you go out and you just start buying properties, man, you can get really hit with some huge tax bills here. So you really got to know and study how this system works, because it is a very unique system. But I'll tell you something, I like the system. It's because you can control it a lot better. Income taxes, you really can't control that. You make a high income in the U.S., it's very difficult. If you got losses, then you're not making any money, And these real estate type schemes I've seen in the U.S. where you go in and depreciate stuff, that stuff doesn't work. It has a real short limitation period on that, and it just doesn't work long term if you're making a lot of money. And I've seen the figures. The only way, if you want to get your taxes to zero, you need to get out of the high tax country you're living in. And if you're a U.S. citizen, you're going to have to relinquish. You can come over here and qualify for the foreign overseas exclusion, and you can get a huge deduction up to certain limits on that. And I've got other videos that I've given to you on that you can look at. So these are some things that I would be looking at if you're coming to St. Kitts and you want to get your taxes. When I say taxes, I'm talking about everything across the board. There are ways you can get it close to zero, okay? But you got to know what you're doing. And if you're bringing in building materials and you're going to build a house here, you're going to have to pay heavy duties on things like this. Now, there are certain types of properties that are, if you're getting, like there are a couple of citizenship developments here that have, where you can buy the property, the actual lot for citizenship, and you can build on those type properties because it's a citizenship property, and you get an exemption on the duty on that, but you have to build within a certain period of time to actually get that benefit. So otherwise you'd be paying the duty amount when you build. So and also furniture, same way too. If you bring in furniture, you need to do it in a certain length of time if you buy citizenship property. If you come into St. Kitts too, and you're bringing in your own used items, I'm not talking about something that's over 6 months old, okay? You can escape the duty on that if you do it the time you move in. I think it's like 6 months from the time you move in if it's used, okay? On the other stuff, I'm talking about on used stuff, on new stuff. Anyway, folks, these are things that you can kind of remember, because if you come to St. Kitts, you can literally pay out a lot of money in taxes. I mean, most countries in the world don't have a 33% corporate income tax rate. But like I said, you can avoid it. There are ways you can avoid it here. You just got to know what you're doing. Anyway, folks, if you want to learn more on this, go to our website, www.citizenshipquickly.com, and just ask for some help. And I would like to hear from you. If you got a question or comment, put it below. And again, don't forget to hit the subscribe button at the right of your screen. We got almost 900 videos here. This is where you pick up a lot of good information, and I look forward to talking to you in the next video. Take care.